I mean, we've had fires, extreme heat, no rain. I mean, like, what is going on with California? We're in September and it's almost 100 degrees out here in Southern California, and we have terrible air quality. Oh boy, can 2020 get any worse? That's really my only question. Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another video here on Jacob's Aquarium. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope your tanks are doing good as well. So, what is an auto top-off system? If you don't own a tank that has a wet-dry filter or a sump filter, you probably never even have thought about this type of system. Or maybe you have, I don't know. But for the most part, a lot of people new to this hobby have no idea what an auto top-off system is. They just continue to become frustrated when they have to fill up their aquariums every, if they live in a really humid place, maybe 2-3 times a week, or in a very cool, dry place, or not so dry place. I really don't care about the science, just they have to refill their tanks because the water evaporates. We'll just say that. But for those of us that are tired of doing that and would like something to do it for us, there is something called an auto top-off system. And while it may sound intimidating, it's really not. And it's actually very, very simple to make one for your aquarium. But you have to be careful because an auto top-off system involves a reservoir of water to refill your aquarium. And if something happens to that reservoir and you have this system set up in your house, you could damage a lot of things in your house. So you have to be very, very careful. So today in this video, I'm going to show you my auto top-off system that I built myself. And I'm not going to, it may sound like, oh, I built an auto top-off system, like I did so much. But it was, to be quite honest, I drilled a hole, I put in a fitting, I put some Velcro on my float valve and attached it to the pipe coming out of my return pump. It was very, very simple. When I first set up this auto top-off system here at the nursery, I was using a 35-gallon trash can. And what I did was I drilled a hole in the bottom and I used some water line fittings to pretty much make like my own bulkhead. And I drilled the hole so that it was just big enough to put the fitting through and to tighten the locking nut on the other side, just so that there was no extra gaps and there'd be no water leaks. And I had to tighten that really tight. And you can put some type of sealant on it if you want to. You can put some silicone, you can put some PVC cement glue. I'd prefer silicone, but you have to buy the right one because some silicones don't stick well to materials like this, or that plastic trash can material. So I was using a 35-gallon trash can before to do that, and it was okay, but because it's so hot during the summer out here, water evaporates so fast out of the pond. I probably lose at least a gallon to a gallon and a half a day, probably more. That's just my my guess, but it could be more than that because there's been times where I've come back to the pond literally a day later and my sump filter is empty. Of course, that was before I had my auto top-off system, which is why the main reason why I decided to make one as well is because if water is not at a certain height in my sump filter, then things start to happen. And what I mean by that is there's not enough water to go back into the pump and then to get pumped back into the pond. So that means the pond's not being filtered, and that could potentially kill plants. I mean, not every plant, but some plants really like good water flow and good filtered water, not stagnant water, so it could kill some of my plants. It could also damage the pump because when a pump is running dry, the impeller inside is just knocking against the walls of the enclosure it's inside the pump, and it could just ruin it. And also, there's been times where some pumps have ran dry and caught on fire. And you definitely don't want that to happen as well. We have enough fires in California as it is, from stupid people that decide to have gender reveal parties. So there's a lot of things that can happen when a sump runs dry. So an auto top-up system will guarantee that your sump will always have a fresh supply of water, and not only that, but a certain water level in your sump. And you don't have to go back every now and then to refill it. It really gives you peace of mind, and it makes owning an aquarium or a pond or whatever with a sump filter a lot easier. And you know, there are some people that do install auto top-off systems on just regular aquariums that don't have sump filters. The thing is though, you have to attach the float valve to the top of your aquarium, and it may not be the most prettiest looking thing. Some people may think it looks pretty ugly. So that's typically why people don't do that, but that is always an option for people that want to add an auto top-off system to their tank, but don't have a wet dry filter or a sump filter. So what I did to make this new auto top-off system and get rid of the trash can, because the trash can auto top-off system was only 35 gallons, and I would go through that in literally what it would seem like 2 or 3 days. And you know, there's some times where I can't be here at the nursery, so there's some days that I wasn't here, and sometimes the trash can would run empty, and then the sump would the water level in the sump would get really low, and then the pump would start to run dry. And you know, thankfully this pump is still chugging along even though it's ran dry a couple times. And it's a J-bow or J-bow pump, not really the highest quality pump either, and I'm surprised that it's held up this long through all the issues that I've put it through. But so I was getting tired of that, so I got rid of the trash can, and I instead got this 55-gallon drum from Uline. And Uline's not paying me to sponsor their product or anything. I wish they were, but I'm just simply telling you guys where I got this from. But yeah, Uline is a shipping company. Well, yeah, they're sort of like a shipping supplies company, I guess. They sell a bunch of things like boxes and tape and packing tables. They sell everything you need to pretty much ship things wherever you want. But they also sold these 55-gallon drums. And if you don't want to buy these drums, whatever, from Uline, a lot of hydroponic stores actually sell these as well, because people that create hydroponic systems need an auto top-off system as well, and they sometimes use these to make one as well. Or they also use it to make water for their plants. Like when you're doing hydroponics, you want the water you're using for your plants to be at a certain pH, kind of like aquariums. And you also want to add nutrients and stuff to it before you use that water to water your plants. So a lot of people use these big drums to mix that water and you know, basically make water for their plants. But some people use it for auto top-up systems, as I have. And so what I did was I got the 55-gallon drum, and it had to be shipped on a truck. That's the only thing. So that was like an extra 40 or 50 bucks. So I ended up paying almost $150 for this drum. But in the end, it's worth it because it's such a big reservoir of water, 55 gallons, and it lasts me a week. Then actually, yeah, so a gallon to a gallon and a half of water does not evaporate out of the pond every single day. It's probably much more than that if this lasts me a week. So I take that back. So I bought that, and I drilled a hole into it, and I put one of these waterline bulkheads, just like I did with the trash can, and I drilled the hole barely big enough for the bulkhead to go through, so that it had a really tight fit once I pushed it in there, you know. And it's been watertight ever since, so I don't think it's gonna leak at all. And then I just got some waterline tubing. This is the smallest one that they offer, and I bought an eShops float valve. Had to buy a new one because the float valve that I had before, it started to crack. It was old, you know, and that's the thing. Float valves do get old, and the plastic that they're made out of starts to crack. But I typically only notice that with float valves that had some type of light over them. For me, the light that damaged my float valve was the sun, so a lot of UV exposure. For people that have these in aquariums and they start to crack and get damaged, it's usually because they have them in some type of refugium. If you don't know what a refugium is, it's typically made for saltwater tanks, and it's like a living filter. You know, there's plants and fish and things inside of it, and to grow those plants in the filter, you need some light. So people typically have light over those refugiums, and just over the years, that light, you know, beating down on that float valve will tend to make the plastic crack and go bad over time. So I had to replace my float valve, but that float valve lasted me a good 5 or 6 years, so it lasted a long time. So it's not like it's something you have to rebuy all the time. So it lasted a good while. So I bought an eShops float valve, and I used some Velcro straps to attach the float valve to the pipe coming out of my sump pump. I guess you can call it that. I like the way that sounds, sump pump. Rhymes. And that was also a decision I had to make on my part, was where I wanted the water level in my sump. So I had to Velcro strap the float valve at a height that I thought was appropriate for my sump filter. And for my sump filter, I wanted the water level to be at a height just above the pump intake so that it wasn't ingesting air. You know, if there's some type of suction close to the surface of any water level, it starts to develop like a vortex, and then it starts to ingest air. We can't have that in the pump, because in the pump's not going to be working full blast. It's just going to be sucking in air, and that's also going to introduce a lot of oxygen into the pond and lower my CO2 levels, which could then prevent my plants from growing as fast as they could. So we definitely don't want that. So I put the float valve just high enough so that the water level is just high enough so that there's no vortexes being created and no air being ingested into the pump. And it's worked great ever since. And now I have peace of mind that my pond will be topped off, or my sun filter will be topped off rather, for a whole week. And I don't have to worry about it. I only have to refill this thing once a week. It's such a great system. It's efficient, it lasts a long time, and it's held up great ever since I built it. So you can do something just like this for your sump filter, and like I said, really the only concern that you have is your craftsmanship. You have to really be careful and make sure that everything is watertight, especially if you're installing this type of system in your home. But this is something that can give you peace of mind that your sump is always topped off and your pumps never run dry. So all the investments you've made into, as far as equipment goes, into your aquarium won't go to waste, because you won't be damaging your pumps or anything like that. So an auto top-off system just benefits anybody that has a wet dry filter, and makes owning, or a sump filter, whatever you want to call it, or makes owning an aquarium with this type of filter so much easier. Alright, so that pretty much does it for this video here on Jacob's Aquarium. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I also just want to let you guys know that I just got a big shipment in of plants, so pretty much every single plant on the website is back in stock. And I also wanted to let you guys know that I have other YouTube channels, and I'm actually really excited because I'm going to start making videos again for one of my other channels, and that other channel is called Jacob's Aviation. It's basically just plane spotting videos, so if you're into planes or aviation, I think you'll really like that channel of mine. And I'm gonna start making videos for that channel again, because I stopped making videos about 4 or 5 years ago for that channel, because I sold my camera that had a telephoto lens. And when you're photographing planes or shooting video of planes, you need a lens, a really long telephoto lens, because there's really no other way to capture a plane in great detail without one. I mean, you can't do it with the lens I'm using now. Definitely can't do it with that. So I'm actually buying a 100 to 400 millimeter Sigma telephoto lens for my new camera, the Panasonic S1H, and somebody has to prove that their manhood's really big, you know. So I'm buying a telephoto lens for my new camera, the Panasonic S1H. and I'm going to be using that to film my new aviation videos, and I'm also going to be filming them in 5K, well 5.9K, 6K, almost 6K, whatever you want to call it. And currently nobody else is doing that on YouTube, so I will be the first. So I'm actually really excited. So I hope you guys will check out that channel. Links to all my other channels are on the main page of this channel, so you can go there if you want to visit my other channels. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys are having a great day, night, morning, weekend, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you're staying safe and happy and healthy. And I hope your tanks are doing good. Have fun with your tanks, and I'll see you next time.